When you believe in things that you don't understand, then you suffer. I'm going to leave it right there. All right. Things are popping around here on a Friday, and we are being joined in studio right now by our district attorney, the 43rd District Attorney of the County of Los Angeles since November 3rd, 2020. He is running for re-election. He is former Deputy Chief of the LAPD. He's worked on public safety initiatives in Latin America and the Middle East, and a board member of the Council of State Governments Justice Center. DA George Gascon, welcome.
Thank you, Dominique. Good morning.
Good morning. Great to see you. Also, we're being joined by Jasmyne Cannick, a strategist and award-winning Gen X journalist and on-air contributor. Jasmyne Cannick is also a member of the LA County Democratic Party Central Committee.
I am. Good morning, Dominique. Good morning, DA Gascon. And I'm a member of the DA's office's African American Advisory Board.
Right, which is what we're going to focus on this morning, because a lot of people don't even know that exists or what it is. And it's one of a number of different advisory boards that you have, right?
Right. We have 7 now. We just actually swore in the Women's Advisory Board yesterday. Although we were joking that most of our advisory boards are all women. we do have some guys and some of the other ones, we have our token guys. But yes, it's 7. And the African American Advisory Board was one of the very first advisory boards. In fact, right after the Victims Advisory Board. So they've been in place for about 3 years now. Yeah.
And what do they actually do?
Yeah, one of the things that I did when I was elected is I talked about co-governance. I talk about bringing the community into the office to help us develop policies. And I wanted to make sure that we had people that had the pulse in the various communities that we serve. And certainly the African American community is a critical community, especially when you're talking about the criminal legal system, right? Because so much of what happens with policing and prosecution in our country impacts the African American community in so many different ways. So I wanted to make sure that we have that input when we're looking at things like police use of force, when we're looking at, policing the community, when we're looking at prosecutions, when we're looking about safety. And we selected an incredible number of community leaders, including Jasmyne, that bring the diversity of thought within the African American community. And then what is really interesting is that the advisory boards also cross-pollinate. So the African American Advisory Board has been working with the AAPI and the LGBTQ advisory boards on issues of hate crimes and other areas. So we develop policy as a result of this. And the African American Advisory Board has actually been one of the most active. They have done community forums. They've had initiatives dealing with police use of force. Frankly, they hold me accountable too, which I think is important, right? Because it's always good to have people remind you what is important and why you were elected in the first place.
Yeah. And so you sit on this DA's advisory board, Jasmyne.
I do. I've said thank you to you before. But I thank the DA for putting me on there. I can't say we've always seen eye to eye on everything, and that's a testament to him, right? Because you're exactly right. These boards do have a diversity of thought, and I think what everyone brings to all of the advisory boards is just a commitment to wanting to work with the DA's office on behalf of their community. I have some great folks on the African American board with me, and we focus on issues from mental health is really big, juvenile justice is really big, police accountability is really big, and one of the things we're getting ready to do is have an event in Watts to kind of also get more feedback from our community on the issues that are most important to them, to make sure that we're aligned and in sync with what the community wants in an advisory board.
Yeah, and we'll get into that for sure, because that's coming up next week. But I think if I wanted to appoint an advisory board that wouldn't constantly be a pain in my neck, I would not appoint Jasmyne Cannick.
You are so horrible.
I had a couple of people say, "You sure you want to bring Jasmine on?"
And I have been nothing but great, right?
You have been. But I have to tell you, people told me, "You sure you want to do that?" And I say, "Yes, I am." She's going to make us be honest.
I mean, the reason I say that, like, we're friends and we don't agree
We
a lot. I mean, I'd
no.
say about 50% of the time we agree.
50% of the time we agree. And what's great is that is how I live my life. Like, you were at my birthday dinner. Like, I'm like you, George.
Yeah.
Like, we cannot surround ourselves by the choir.
Yeah,
It doesn't work that way, right, Dominique? You have to. What?
No, I agree.
Looking
I
at
mean,
me.
look, I'm the only one that lets trolls come on their show and yell at them and try to
She's
disparage
not talking
them.
about me. She's.
No, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about
Yeah.
my Republican trolls that call
Yeah.
it. But for me,
can't.
I'm not scared of you. Why would I be scared
Yeah.
of differing ideas? Unless I think my own ideas are weak. If you can convince me that your idea is better, have at it.
You've convinced me on a lot of things, Dominique. We've had conversations about different things through the years that you've helped me look at things. I have you, my cousin, I have a bunch of folks, Nana, that, y'all are the more liberal people in my life who help me see things sometimes from a different point of view. And I appreciate that. And I think that that's what I try to bring also to the advisory board. It's just that, look, KBLA saw with their poll on criminal justice, right? That the Black community here in LA County is all over the spectrum when it comes to different feelings on crime and this and that. And so when we put advisory boards together, we should take that into account. It shouldn't just be, all the let them all out or all the lock them all up. So we need a mix of people with different varying views.
Absolutely.
We're going to make a progressive out of her.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Yeah, you're definitely.
Why am I not progressive?
Well, because
I'm a very progressive person.
socially,
Y'all think I'm not progressive?
I think you're socially progressive.
Oh, you're
Politically,
so
I think you're pretty.
funny.
You can be very conservative. You're definitely on the lock 'em up side of town.
I am not on the lock 'em
Girl,
up.
stop.
Thank you, Dominique.
Girl,
I
stop.
feel validated now. I'm going to start dancing here.
You definitely are.
I'm never gonna live this down.
We're constantly
This
arguing
woman will
like,
give me
well,
the evil
people,
look
they need to go to
sometimes.
jail.
No,
and they
I
need to- they need to-
believe
and
that there
that's-
should be consequences for bad behavior. I absolutely believe that. But should someone who steals a county board go to prison for 20 years? Absolutely not. But yeah, I'm not for just,
But yet it
they
took
had
you
a
a
hard
while
life,
to
we
get
should
to
just
know
let
on
them
36.
go. No.
But yet it took you to get a while to get to know on 36. I'm just saying.
it did take me a
I'm
while,
just saying, I
and
rest my
you
case.
call Douglas, Gascon, a lot of different people.
We have to beat her over the head,
I had to listen to a lot of different people, but that's okay, and I'm proud of that, right?
Right.
Because for me, and I think this is great for the average person to hear too, like, sometimes we do need to hear other opinions and other logic to help us get to the right point. And I'm okay with admitting that, and I'm fine with it. Because that's what makes me a better person.
mean,
so I appreciate you, and I appreciate everyone.
To me, that's what being a well-informed electorate
right.
means. It doesn't
Right.
just mean you
Yeah.
listen to yourself and your friends on Twitter. It means you
Yeah,
talk to
thank
people with
you.
differing points of view.
Yeah.
Can
I
you-
got there.
So she did get to know on 36.
I am a no on
Yes.
36.
We already know
yeah.
that you are District Attorney George Gascon. Can you give me like an example of something that's come to you out of the African American Advisory Committee that surprised you or changed your perspective on something?
Well, I mean, look, I think that when it comes to police use of force, right, there are very strong feelings in the African American community, as there are in the Latino community, by the way. And I think that sometimes, I'm a cop at heart, right? I was a police officer for 3 decades. I know that people think I'm this bleeding liberal, but people forget where I came from. And sometimes I look at police use of force and I remember being in uniform, being in a police car, and the stress and quite frankly the fear sometimes. And I have a tendency sometimes to try to look through the most positive possible way, even though people don't think I do. And I think that the African American Advisory Board brings a very different perspective, right? Brings a perspective of a community has been over-policed. A community, by the way, that I was a police officer for years, and it took me a long time to realize what over-policing was, right? And I think that the African American Advisory Board brings a different level of sensitivity to me that I take to heart. I think that issues around mental health in the African American community, we've had deep conversations about this. So there is a great deal of information, and Jasmine is absolutely right. Our advisory boards are very diverse of thought, right? Even, people think all the Latinos in the Latinx community advisory board, African American, they all think alike. No, they don't. In fact, I have people that really push back sometimes. So there are things that even for someone that considers himself quote unquote progressive, I have blinders because I was a cop for a long time before I was a DA, that members of the board have brought to my attention and said, you need to kind of walk yourself into this other place. So yes, the answer to that is that there are many things that I look at it a little differently today that perhaps I did even 4 years ago as a result of that interaction.
And these are new. Like, we've never had these advisors. It seems like something that would have been in place, but it's never been.
No, it's never been done. It's the first time in LA County. Now, I did them in San Francisco, but it's the first time in LA County.
We're talking with District Attorney George Gascon of LA County and one of the members of his African American Advisory Commission. That would be Jasmyne Cannick. We'll continue the conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Are you wet shaving? You'll get razor bumps.
Nah, Pops, I'm good with Gillette Skin Guard. How long you been growing that beard Mama hates anyway?
Since 77. I shaved and got ingrown so bad.
That's why I use the Gillette Skin Guard razor, face scrub, shave gel, and moisturizer. So I don't have to worry about new razor bumps or shaving irritation.
Gillette Skin Guard, huh? Your mama's gonna love this one.
The best a man can get keeps getting better with Gillette Skin Guard. Buy now at a retailer near you.
Girl, I have a secret. When I get stressed out, I get sweaty. That's why I use Secret Clinical Antiperspirant. It's like my own secret weapon. For 72 hours, I get Secret's strongest protection against sweat caused by stress, heat, and activity, because you know how crazy life can get. Plus, it's made with advanced odor fighters that don't just cover up smelliness. They help prevent it from happening in the first place. Believe me, if I weren't wearing Secret, I'd be a hot, smelly mess. Thankfully, Secret works.
Politics has become so messy lately, it's hard to find a reason to be hopeful. Hi, my name is Shakira. I'd like to tell you why Adam Schiff gives me hope. My parents raised me to take my right to vote seriously, so I try to stay on top of what's going on. I saw Adam Schiff lead the impeachment and insurrection hearings. He seemed like someone I could believe in. Then I actually met him at the MLK parade in South Central LA this year. Adam listened. He cared. I got to see who he is. He understands the struggle we have with the cost of living, all the parents working extra shifts and taking second jobs to get by. He gets a threat to our democracy and our freedoms. Adam Schiff knows how tough things really are for a lot of us, and I believe he's going to do something about it. It gives me hope, but hope isn't enough. We need to vote for Adam Schiff for Senate.
I'm Adam Schiff, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Schiff for Senate.
Heard any other talk radio lately that sounds anything like this? We didn't think so. You're listening to Unapologetically Progressive, KBLA Talk 1580.
We are talking with the district attorney for LA County. It's a little, we're a little fired up and rowdy in here this morning, but that's good. It's Friday. Wake up. Jasmyne Cannick is also here. She's actually, you might not have known, on the DA's African American Advisory Commission. What other kind of folks are on there, Jasmine? Any names I
you're
might
going to
know?
put me on the spot to remember all my colleagues'
no,
names.
not all
Dr.
of them.
Merchan is our chair.
Okay.
All
right. Well, sorry. All right. Never mind. Look, you're going to look it up.
I'll get it before the end of the show, but I will just say that the African American Advisory Board is really diverse, and we have some great folks on our board who do a lot of great work in our community. One of the things that I just want to add on to what the DA was saying before the break was there's also a huge focus with a lot of our members on youth and juvenile. And so when we talk about like the policies and different things that come out of the board, a lot of my colleagues are really, really focused and have helped me be even more focused on juvenile justice here in Los Angeles County, and what the future of that looks like and how we as members can be helpful. Why is Anna so great?
Anna's very
Anna's listening. Dr. Merchan is our chair. Yeah. Kat Perkins is our vice chair. Dr. Charity Chandler Cole, who many folks may know that name, is our spokesperson. Other members include Donna Brown, Marcus Huntley, Tim Cornegay, of course myself, Bernita Walker, and Pastor Jesse Smith. And I will say one of the things that I love about this board is that we're all over LA County. So we even have folks in the Antelope Valley who are on our board, because sometimes folks forget that LA County is 88 cities and communities. And because the Antelope Valley is so far away, we forget that they are a part of the county.
Yeah.
But Lancaster and Palmdale are definitely being represented on this board.
Okay, so let's, before we inexplicably run out of time, let's talk about the event. There's an event coming up in Watts, the 29th.
It is, and I just want to say thank you to WLCAC for agreeing to host us. Yep. That is so amazing. So yeah, we'll be in Watts with the DA. The African American Advisory Board is going to convene a meeting of our community. So come one, come all from all throughout LA County to just talk about what the priorities should be for the board, what the work that we've done, and just to really make sure, right, that your office, the board, everyone is sort of aligned with what the community sees as being our most pressing issues at this time, right?
Yeah, and the title of the event, and it really describes what Jasmine is saying, is Your Voice Matters, Shaping Our Future with the DA's African American Advisory Board. And really what we're seeking is we want the community to join us and, first of all, understand the work that is being done and what the DA does, because I think often people don't know that part, as you well know, Dominique. But the other part is, what are the things that we should be doing that we're not doing, right? Mm-hmm. And what are the things that matter the most to the African American community today? Because, what happened yesterday may or may not be as important as whatever people need to see today. So we want to stay. We want to contextualize our work to the moment, and we want to continue to grow. And we want disagreeing voices too. We're not looking, again, just like we have within the board.
Polite, disagreeable voices.
Disagree without disrespect.
Respectfully.
Disagree without disrespect. So this is Tuesday, and it's doors at 5:30. The program starts at 6. It's at the Watts Labor Community Action Committee, the Phoenix Hall, which is 10950 South Central Avenue in Los Angeles. And I think this is important because many times we have commission meetings and city functions. They're during school / work hours, and they're at City Hall where there's no parking.
Right.
Yeah. This is in the community in the evening. Yep. I think your office has worked really hard to make sure that we have refreshments for folks. So there'll be food and something to drink, and it'll just be an opportunity to be in community and to sort of, like I said, talk about what we think our biggest priority should be, and just make sure that the DA's office is in alignment with that.
And by the way, this speaks again to the value of the advisory boards. This was the advisory board's idea. You guys put it together. This didn't come from me. It came from them.
Right. Well, that doesn't surprise me because I feel like we've been lobbying for many different kinds of meetings to happen in our community for decades.
Yeah, I remember once we had a DA that ran from BLM LA for like years and didn't meet with them and promised that she was, and then she never did.
Here's what I remember. I remember a DA that, and other politicians that come on my shows when they're running for office and then never again. And so I appreciate, the fact that you've always been, you continue to check in with us on our shows when it's not election season. That, it's like the trope about politicians going to the black church only during elections. And I think that's a real issue.
Yeah, it is. I think the DA has been really visible in our community. I think for me personally, I get a lot of slack sometimes from people for supporting you, and I, like Dominique, can hold. Girl, and I can hold my own, and I'm always like, look, I feel that you have done what the voters asked you to do, right? And that's my argument all the time when people say, well, crime is high, crime is this, crime is that, and this and that. And I'm like, okay, look, check this out. The DA, tell me when I say something that's wrong. You can only go by what the law is, right? You definitely can make policies in your office, but you have to follow the law. The laws are set by us because we either voted elected officials into office who made those laws, or we gave it the up or down vote on a proposition or a measure with our vote. So you are just following what the voters asked you to do. Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Plus, also, people forget that the DA doesn't make arrests. The DA doesn't patrol the community. That's the police.
That's the police.
Right.
And, it's funny you would say that, DA George Gascon, because somebody, I think it was Sherry Bell, actually brought it up earlier in the show. You also don't set the bail schedule.
That's right. That's the courts. Yeah.
So there's a lot of misinformation out there, like this one person made crime go up. If crime is up, this one person did. No, we don't take. Now, you know this more than I do, Dominique. Who controls the news, what gets on the news, how the news can influence.
Yeah, for sure.
Our thinking. If they give us a bunch of stories that make it look like.
Yeah. All smash and grabs all the time.
Yeah.
Because it's spectacular footage. But just to be clear, because, and if it bleeds, it leads.
But you know what? Even if it happens in Orange County, I get blamed for it, right?
right. Well, and that's why I wanted to circle back to this bail schedule thing, because the voters can change whether we use bail or we get rid of the whole bail system. Yeah. And the county board of supervisors can set policy, but that's not in the authority of the district attorney.
No, and really bail comes to the courts. And let me be clear, I am against cash bail, but let me tell you why I'm against cash bail. How much money you have in your bank account should never determine whether you're going to be set free or not pending a trial. We know that poor people are often left for weeks and months in jail because they cannot get out. And we know people that can afford to get out, and sometimes they go out and harm people again. So if we're going to hold you in custody, we should be holding you in custody because you're dangerous or because you're likely to flee the jurisdiction, not because you don't have any money in your bank account.
Yeah. I mean, understood.
I agree on that. And I worked really hard around that issue as well here in LA County. And for me, I always just say to people, look, if Dominique goes out and steals a candy bar and has $1 million in her bank account, and I go and do the same thing, and I have $1 in my bank account, why? But you let Dominique go because Dominique could afford to pay the bail. We did the same crime.
Exactly.
Like, how is that in any way about keeping us safe? Right? Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. But and I think, it's back to an event I think we did, Pride, South LA Pride, where you broke down, who you go to for what in government. And yes, the DA was there. I was there. And it's kind of like the Yellow Pain song. You got to understand who you're calling for what.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can let people fool you. by pointing the finger at people for one thing that they had, or crediting people for one thing that they had nothing to do with.
But I just want people to understand, as voters, we set the mandate for our elected officials. And so, don't believe that hype, because the voters voted for certain things, and that's why we have the laws we have.
News, traffic, and sports, and we'll continue this conversation. The DA's African American Advisory Commission and the state of Black LA when it comes to justice. KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 things you should know from BIN News. Former President Trump says he would fire the special counsel that has indicted him on multiple criminal charges if elected. The Republican presidential nominee told radio host Hugh Hewitt that it would be an easy decision and he would do it within 2 seconds. 4 astronauts are back on Earth after a stint on the International Space Station. 3 Americans and 1 Russian were scheduled to return over 2 weeks ago, but had to wait out weather delays caused by Hurricane Milton. A 15-year-old boy is accused of fatally shooting his parents and 3 siblings in a Washington state home. According to charging documents, the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office says the boy also staged the scene to make it look as if his brother had done the shooting and then killed himself. And Beyonce will reportedly be showing her support for Vice President Harris at a rally in Texas today. The Washington Post reports the superstar singer-songwriter will appear with Harris at her campaign event in Houston. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. At Blindster, we offer custom-made faux wood and real wood blinds and shutters, cellular shades, Roman shades, bamboo shades, exterior shades, and more, all at factory direct prices. Don't pay too much for new blinds. Go to Blindster.com.
Is this the title? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Rams got 4 touchdown passes Thursday night from quarterback Matthew Stafford to beat Minnesota 30-20. One of the touchdown passes was a 7-yard toss to Cooper Kupp, who was in the lineup for the first time since Week 1. Wide receiver Puka Nacua, out since Week 2, also made his return. He had 7 catches for 106 yards. The Rams defense did not allow a touchdown in the second half. It's Game 1 of the World Series tonight at Dodger Stadium. The Dodgers and the Yankees in the Fall Classic for the first time since 1981. This is the 12th time these 2 historic franchises have met in the World Series. The rivalry has generated 26 Hall of Famers, 10 Cy Young Award winners, and 18 MVPs. For all the OGs out there, this is like the Lakers and Celtics going at it in the NBA Finals. First pitch today at 5:08. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
All I need is one mic.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. October marks the 3rd anniversary of Mark Ridley Thomas's indictment and suspension from the Los Angeles City Council. Recently, I authored an op-ed about various media actors who continue to abdicate their responsibility to report the truth in Dr. Ridley Thomas's case. I invite you to read the piece on our KBLA 1580 website. Following months of filings, MRT's appeal is finally set for oral argument on November 21st at the 9th Circuit Court of Appeals. A 3-judge panel will hear and weigh the arguments of government prosecutors and MRT's appellate counsel. They will decide whether prosecutors in the United States Attorney's Office properly interpreted and followed the law, whether the district court judge erred in deciding critical issues of law in ways that prejudiced the trial outcome and denied MRT a fair trial, and whether the verdict in the case should be overturned or whether the case should be remanded back to the district court for a new trial. MRT is seeking an outright reversal of the verdict. I have maintained all along that the U.S. Attorney's Office exaggerated claims of corruption in this particular case. Now, I could be wrong, but I don't think so. Indeed, the U.S. Supreme Court recently delivered a ruling in a case called Snyder that will have major ripple effects on the anti-corruption landscape. In short, the court ruled that there is no criminal act, there is no bribe, if there is no exchange for an official act. The legal statute does not apply to gratuities or gifts absent a quid pro quo agreement between the two parties. As MRT never received monies and no such exchange was ever proven in the government's case against him, I would think that the Ninth Circuit Court has all the runway it needs to rule in MRT's favor following the hearing next month. Ironically, next month is also MRT's 70th birthday, which means that he has spent most of his adult life in love and service to this community. It would be tragic for another court to miss an opportunity to correct the public record in a case that should never have been brought forward in the first place. MRT cannot get these lost years back, but justice delayed does not have to be justice denied. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. As always, we welcome your feedback.
An official message from Medicare.
Couple more minutes, and we'll start this month's book club.
You know, I usually love a plot twist, but this year, I'm comparing my options during Medicare open enrollment.
You can't assume your current health or drug plan is the best one for you.
And you gotta make sure your drugs are covered. That's important.
So is saving money.
Review all your options at Medicare.gov. Open enrollment ends December 7th. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
Heard any other talk radio lately that sounds anything like this? We didn't think so. You're listening to Unapologetically Progressive, KBLA Talk 1580.
You are, and we are talking about the District Attorney, George Gascon, who's in studio with us right now, along with Jasmyne Cannick. We're talking about his African American Advisory Committee having an event the 29th, which is Tuesday, at the WLCAC in Watts. Jasmyne Cannick just so happens to be a member of that African American Advisory Committee. And you mentioned something, D.A. Gascon, which I want to circle back to, even though it's not directly about this advisory committee, which is the Victims Advisory Committee, because much has been made of the fact that the DA's office, under your newer policies, which, you know, I think Jasmine and I would both argue were mandated by us, the voters, doesn't do enough for victims. So just talk to me a little bit about the Victims Advisory Committee and the role that they play.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting because I think we have done more for victims than probably any past DA. And one of the first things that I did was create a Victims Advisory Board composed of people that have been victims of violent crime or have lost family members to violence. And it's a very diverse group, including African Americans, Latinos, Asians. And this advisory board actually began to review so much of our work. And many of them were very critical of the office already because they had had really bad experiences with the office in the past. And one of the complaints was that the office is more concerned about convicting somebody than it is about taking care of the victim's needs. So as a result of that, we revamped our entire victim services unit. We went from having a lawyer running this unit to bring in a clinician that actually worked right here in this community in Watts for many, many years. And that was after a nationwide search. We hired 30 additional victim services representative. We increased the budget for the unit. We started doing services in the community in ways that we were not before. And we also started training our staff in trauma-informed care. Where we are today in terms of what we were 4 years ago is night and day. We have become sort of a model in this work. And so much of this is really the result of the Victims Advisory Board, you know, rolling up their sleeves. They're the ones that made the recommendation, says, you know, you need to have a clinician, not a lawyer running this. They help us select the person. Actually, they sat on the interviews of a nationwide search to select the person that has been running the unit now, Tanisha Wright, who's worked here in this community for many, many years. She worked for the Department of Public Health before. So the work that we're doing is revolutionary, and frankly is work that still we need to do more, but it's so much better than what we did before, and we get a lot of compliments. There were things like even providing people an app in order to track, where the cases and all this stuff. All this stuff came out of the advisory board. The whole concept of what a role is in a parole hearing, they work on that as well. So this is a board that has been very active, and it's a board that we continue to learn from.
Can I just add one thing
Of
to
course,
that? I would also add, DA Gascon, that out of all of your advisory boards, we are all, supporters of victims of crime, right? So even on the African American advisory board, you have folks like myself and my colleagues. So I think while you have a victims advisory board, each and every one, Dominique, like from the Latino, the API, everyone is always super focused on victims of crime and on all the boards.
Very much. Jasmine's absolutely right. The central thesis of all these boards is about the safety and the well-being of our community and protecting victims of crime. So everything that this boards do is really, at the end of the day, centered around community safety.
So when you talk about, getting input from the community and folks like my friend Jasmine, I'm sure that you're hearing the perception. We talked about it a little bit earlier about, retail theft and this idea that, and we do see it in our survey of African Americans voters in LA County. We saw that people feel less safe, even though they say that every time they're surveyed. And we also hear that people want enforcement, but then we don't want to be over-policed, right? We don't want to be discriminated against. We don't want to be disproportionately targeted.
Yeah. Look, I think you can have both. I don't think it's an either or. I think that we as a community deserve to be safe. I think that we should demand that our police and our entire system provides the protection for our community, and I don't think that entails that we have to be discriminatory or over-police or be thoughtless about the way that we do our work. When it comes to retail theft, we have been very aggressive in our part. We have been prosecuting 92% of the cases of organized retail theft that the police presents, but there's two components that are important for the community to realize. In the city of LA, as many of the larger cities in the county, they have their own misdemeanor prosecutor. In the case of the city of LA, it's the LA city attorney. So simple shoplifting cases are not going to come to my office. If there is an arrest, they will go to the city prosecutor. On the other hand, when we have the smash and grab where you have a whole large number of people going in, taking large quantities of property or robbing, those cases come to us. Those are not shoplifting. By the way, those are robberies, those are assaults, those are conspiracy. We go after those cases very aggressively, and the people that get caught, they often face very serious penalties, up to and including going to prison. And again, we prosecute 92% of the cases that are brought by the police. But not only are we doing that, we also work with the state legislatures, because we recognize that the reason why this is happening today, and it's a nationwide problem, by the way. In fact, per capita is a bigger problem in counties that are surrounding us. We recognize that there's a marketplace that wasn't there before, right? We are increasingly buying stuff online. We buy stuff from Amazon, from eBay, from Facebook or Instagram Marketplace. The source of the items that are being sold is often unknown. We don't ask, where did you get the stuff from? So what we did is with the help of the Assembly and the Senate, and the governor signed it, is create a bill starting January 1 that requires Amazon and those marketplaces to confirm, okay, George is selling toilet paper or whatever he's selling. Do you have the right possession for these items to sell? Which is also taking a look at the other end of the spectrum. Make sure that we shut down the illegal marketplace for the stolen goods.
Yeah. I have to ask you about this, District Attorney Gascon. It hit the news yesterday that you will be resentencing the Menendez brothers. And it's interesting, people put it in the timing of the election and accuse you of like using it for your election. I think I said on the show today, and I read that you've been working on this for a year. It's not like you woke up yesterday and said, oh, I think I'll resentence these guys. But talk to me about that decision and what it means.
Yeah, well, first of all, let me say this. Okay, the court we're filing a petition. The court has to approve it. At the end of the day, it's up to the judge. But, and I tell you what I told a reporter yesterday from one of the national media, because the question was very similar. I know it's coming from the community. I said, we exonerated 2 people of color just 2 days before, 3 days ago, right? Nobody was asking if that was political.
Right.
Wrongfully convicted. We have resentenced over 300 people. Mostly have been poor African Americans and Latino members of the community. 28 of them for murder. Only 4 has recidivated, and this has been going on for over 3 years. I've never had any media attention. When we let the young African American man or a young Latino man that has been in prison for 30 years, did their time, is ready to come back to the community, has a family, they want him back. Nobody ever pays attention to that, right? So all of a sudden, this is a case, like you say, Dominique, it's been going on for over a year. We have worked at it. We got people in my office that are against doing this. I got people that are going to fight me. They're fighting me. They say, first of all, these people should be in prison the rest of their life and know that we're never sexually molested, even though there's a lot of evidence to point the other direction. And somehow this is political. I don't understand that, because when you contextualize the work that we have been doing for so long, I think that the problem is that we, and especially in the media, we turn a blind eye when black and brown people are impacted by stuff. It's like they don't exist, which I find that to be a horrible state of affairs, because I have to tell you that actually the anchor person, I'm not going to say her name or the station, but that was asking me was saying African-American women.
Yeah.
And I say, how come you're not here for all this other stuff to highlight that sometimes we're sending black and brown kids to adult prison that are wrongfully convicted?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess the question should have been, or could be, the follow-up question is, how do you see the Menendez brothers resentencing in terms of your overall policies and the policies of the state of California when we talk about criminal justice reform, when we talk about the changes that we are making, not just as a county, but as a state?
Right. No, listen, I think that they're, first of all, the poster child for redemption and rehabilitation. They've been in prison for 35 years. They went initially for life without the possibility of parole. So they had no hope of ever getting out. And yet, not only did they started working on their self-improvement, but they started working with other prisoners. They started working with prisoners that had mental disabilities, the prisoners that had, they had problems with speaking. They started to create circles to help those people. They started representing other prisoners to improve the living conditions in the prison. These are people that had no hope of ever getting out. And by the way, they're still, until the judge says yes, they're still there, right? We're trying obviously hard to get them that opportunity. And again, as I said, there are people in my office that will probably be at court opposing this release, which I find, well, I'm not going to say anything. I leave it at that.
Yeah. But you made an interesting point when we weren't on the air, which is that they've served 35 years. If they had been convicted today of manslaughter, they would have already been out, right?
Oh, they would have done. They would have been out 20-some years ago.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. The other thing, is that when you have new evidence, it's your job to consider that, right? And including especially the way we would view a sexual assault impacting a case today as opposed to how we might have viewed it when they were convicted.
Yeah, but interestingly enough, Dominique, even back then, right, so there were 2 trials, right? In the first trial, the jury hung, and half of the jurors voted for manslaughter, which would have meant they would have been in prison for substantially lower period of time. And half of the jury wanted, the life without the possibility of parole. By the way, the office was seeking death penalty. We retried him. Some of the evidence that came in initially that supported the arguments that they were making, that they were molested, didn't come out. One of the brothers did not testify in the second trial, on the advice of their attorney. So there were things that occurred differently, but we're still trying to get the death penalty, right? the jury could not agree on the death penalty, but they agree on life without the possibility of parole. And I tell people, look, they brutally murdered their parents, and it was premeditated. There is no question about that. The question for us as a society is when enough rehabilitation has taken place. When is redemption? When do we give people a second chance? And as I said, we have resentenced over 300 people. These are all people that were guilty. They have come out and they're doing extremely well. And we're also exonerating people. Hopefully it will be 16 shortly that were wrongfully convicted. This is stuff that was never done in this office before. And quite frankly, if my opponent were to win, that would not be done either.
Yeah. We will continue our conversation. We're talking about the DA's Black Advisory Committee and also the state of justice in Black LA, how it's moving, and obviously a few other things. We just talked about the Menendez brothers, but we have another special guest joining us when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Are you coughing a lot, especially at night? Are you often short of breath? Are you using your rescue inhaler often? These could be signs that your asthma is not under control. To keep your asthma in check and help prevent an asthma attack, ask your healthcare provider for an asthma action plan. This is a personalized plan you create with your doctor that shows you what to do and what medicines to help control your asthma and to use when you're having a hard time breathing or when you're having an asthma attack. Please don't wait until you're having an asthma attack. Do something about it now. Schedule a visit with your healthcare provider today to make that action plan and take control of your asthma. For more tips and resources on the management of asthma, visit luma-edu.com. This message is brought to you by Amgen and AstraZeneca.
Politics has become so messy lately, it's hard to find a reason to be hopeful. Hi, my name is Shakira. I'd like to tell you why Adam Schiff gives me hope. My parents raised me to take my right to vote seriously, so I try to stay on top of what's going on. I saw Adam Schiff lead the impeachment and insurrection hearings. He seemed like someone I could believe in. Then I actually met him at the MLK parade in South Central LA this year. Adam listened. He cared. I got to see who he is. He understands the struggle we have with the cost of living, all the parents working extra shifts and taking second jobs to get by. He gets a threat to our democracy and our freedoms. Adam Schiff knows how tough things really are for a lot of us, and I believe he's going to do something about it. It gives me hope, but hope isn't enough. We need to vote for Adam Schiff for Senate.
I'm Adam Schiff, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Schiff for Senate.
Have you heard of the 50-30-20 rule? This can help you spend and save your money wisely. So how does it work? Distribute your dollars into 3 buckets. 50% towards needs, 30% towards your wants, and 20% goes to savings. Use this tool to help your journey to financial success. Sponsored by JP Morgan Chase & Company.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Saline from Vicks.
Sinex Saline nasal spray?
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Saline instantly clears everyday congestion associated with colds and year-round allergies with a gentle, ultra-fine mist that's no mess and easy to control.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it.
Enjoy life's important moments without congestion. Try Sinex Saline from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
Mommy, want to play a game with me and Dad?
Mommy's not feeling good.
You need to vaporize that cold.
Vaporize?
Yeah, with DayQuil VapoCool. It's DayQuil plus a rush of Vicks vapors.
Whoa.
Come on, honey. Let's let Mommy rest.
You guys are amazing. And so is DayQuil VapoCool.
DayQuil VapoCool, the vaporizing daytime coughing, aching, fever, power through your day medicine. And to vaporize sore throat pain, try Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate loses and love wins.
And my, time goes by really fast when you're on the radio. We are talking with DA George Gascon. Jasmyne Cannick is with me in studio. He's a member of her African American Advisory Committee. and they'll be at the WLCAC on Tuesday. All are invited. If you want to show up, find out what it's all about, weigh in, right? You'll be there, right?
Absolutely.
Gascon?
You'll be welcome. We want everybody there.
And this, of course, starts at 6 p.m., but doors open at 5:30 p.m. at the Phoenix Hall at WLCAC. On the phone, we have a person, I would say a young person, who we know as Prince Akili. He was sent to jail prison at a very young age and is now out, free, working, community activist. Prince Akili, welcome.
Welcome. Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for calling in. You were resentenced. Go ahead.
Akili, tell us about your resentencing process, please.
Yes, I was a juvenile charged as an adult at the age of 15 years old. I've been to every California California Youth Authority or California institution or prison. I've been to about 6 different prisons, but my experience was as if, let me explain it. I was a juvenile again. I was 15 years old when I was sentenced. I went in there and I rehabilitated myself. I learned law. I learned just how to be a citizen, and I was one of your first candidate, I believe, to be released from your juvenile charge as an adult law. And since I've been home, it has benefited me. Like, I have had so many resources and programs provided, for me to the point where, I had no choice but to get it right. I've been employed since I've been home. I've been staying in education since I've been home. I haven't been encountering with no sense of the law. One thing that I did notice, though, and I have been paying heavy attention to, is that most of the individuals that were sentenced under Jackie Lacey's law that has been released, most of the individuals are back incarceration. Most of them have either a life sentence or most of them has been out on the streets and been murdered. Most of the individuals that was resentenced under George Gascon that he noticed that was innocent and that deserve a second chance, man, I have countless individuals that I can bring forward that are thriving out here. They're working citizens. They're starting nonprofit organizations. You even have men out here that's coming forward to stop gang truths in L.A. I mean, no matter if it was Bloods or Crips, they're stopping that. Like, they're coming forward with T-shirts on, calling it gang truth. They're pushing hard. Since I've been out here, I've been heavy on allowing mothers to be comfortable with understanding the system of injustices. I have did nonprofit work, charity work. I have did
Akili, you did a substantial amount of time too. I mean, it's not like you're 16 now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How long were you in for, Akili? I say once you went into adult prison, how long were you in for?
Okay. I was in there for several. I was sentenced to exactly 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
That was my exact sentence to 30 years. My release date was 2036. And I was 17 years old when I was sentenced. Wow. And reason why I was sentenced to so much time because I was with someone who was an adult. So by him being an adult in the crime, during this time period, when you're sentenced as a juvenile charged as an adult, no matter what the crime is, if you have an adult co-defendant, you was automatically going to be bound over.
Man, I wish we had more time, Akili. It's right at the end of the show. Maybe we can talk about this further another day. But you did, what, like 17, 18 years, something like that?
Yeah. 17 straight.
Yeah.
And you would still be in there now if it wasn't for the resentencing.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. I wish we had more time, like I said. Maybe, Akili, maybe we'll talk about this another day.
Well, Akili's supposed to speak at our event in Watts.
There you go.
So people can hear his story. He's going to tell his story in person. Yeah. So, yeah.
And I think, here's what we need to think about. Akili could be in prison for another 18 years to do that full sentence. But what is the utility to our community to continue to pay over $150,000 a year? That would translate to millions of dollars, right? Instead of having him, now he has a job. He's paying taxes, by the way. He's paying Social Security. So as you get old like I am, I want people to pay into the Social Security. Akili, I thank you for your work.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for sharing. And I know Akili, and he's definitely an asset to the community, the kind of person we want to be in community with. District Attorney George Gascon, thank you for coming in. Thank you for sharing.
My pleasure, Dominique.
Jasmyne Cannick, it's always fun.
Yes, girl. Yes, girl.
And she was nice to me today, too.
The best of Travis Smiley is on right now after news, traffic, and sports. Until next time, one love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 things you should know from BIN News. Former President Trump says he would fire the special counsel that has indicted him on multiple criminal charges if elected. The Republican presidential nominee told radio host Hugh Hewitt that it would be an easy decision and he would do it within 2 seconds. 4 astronauts are back on Earth after a stint on the International Space Station. 3 Americans